So are there any questions this afternoon? Any kind of question? Yes, please.
It may be a technical question. So say you listen to a new album from your favorite band.
Yeah.
And you can either listen to it very critical, like saying, this has some meaning to this, or listen to any errors in the CD you put in the player. Or you can listen to it like flowing, just lying down on the bed and listen with your headphones on and just go with the flow. And for me it feels like the same can be applied to meditation. You can either like hit and destroy any thought that appear and try to hit it, or you can just wait until awareness comes up. So I'm asking if if this is even like a choice to do something, or like should you rather be more passive when in practice?
Yeah, so all those words have a lot of different meanings. Right? So when we come here, we're not passive because we come here with a vow. That means an intention. Right? So that's not passive. If you were just flowing along through life passively, you'd probably die in about 3 or 4 days. So behind everything that human beings does is some kind of intention. In fact, we're beings of intention. Sometimes we project that intentions on other things, like your pet crocodile or your pet parrot or something. But they don't quite have intentions the way that we have intentions. So everything in Buddhism is about a great vow to save all beings from suffering. And when Buddha, after he gets enlightenment, he just keeps sitting underneath the tree. That's kind of interesting. So a god has to come down from heaven and tell him, wait a minute, you're not sitting here to get enlightenment. We're here to actually help people. So your job is to get up and go help people. So that's the big meaning behind Buddhism. So that's the intent about being here. So we aren't sitting here like frogs or sheep or snakes. We're sitting here with some kind of intention. They can probably all sit better than us anyway. So, and then what do you do about your thinking, right? We're thinking beings. So the problem isn't actually thinking. The problem is attachment to thinking. So this sitting here and destroying your thoughts business is actually not it. What's it is letting go of your thinking. Right? So the policeman is attached to what the parrot says. I don't know why you would be attached to what a parrot said, but I guess it does happen. So, the big question is that situation is how can you help the shopkeeper? Well, if you're the policeman, you help the shopkeeper by protecting his property, or somebody comes and tries to rob him. You might protect him in that kind of situation. That's your job. So whether you're smart or not actually isn't the question. So we always say you have to become stupid, right? But that doesn't mean stupid like dumb. Like Ubon Zen Master he wasn't dumb, if I remember correctly. So, maybe better than smart and dumb is clever and not clever. So, not clever means kind of simple-minded, a just do it kind of person, right? So I think it's a better way to talk about it. So, what the parrot may have wanted to have said to the cop was, wow, you are very determined, you're very dedicated, and you just do it. So yeah, that's stupid, depending on the job. If you were just doing it and you were a PhD in physics at Harvard, then you might say, wow, you're really smart, just do it. But if you sit around checking all the time, whether you're cleaning tables in a bar in Vienna, or if you're or if you're working at the University of Vienna, just down the street, they could mean the same things, right? Just do it, whatever that is. So, does that answer your question? It has usually what happens, you'll get confused because Buddhism isn't actually based on your conceptual understanding. It's what did you attain, right? So the parrot obviously attained blue, and then he attached a word to it, right? So we do that all the time too. So the question is, how can you use that to help the world? Right? So we call that truth, right? So most people don't see the truth because they're attached to what they're seeing or hearing or smelling or tasting or thinking. Right? And it's kind of like clouds covering the sun or something like that. It's a good metaphor. So when the clouds move on, like today, I'm sure they'll move on. When are they supposed to move on? In the next couple of days? Then you'll see the sun. Like the sun is shining right now, but you can't see it. So if you look at a murderer or a really violent person or a soldier who's trying to kill some people, you can't see the sun very well because it's pretty cloudy that day in their minds. And then when the sky clears, then you can see what it really is. But this seeing, like this enlightenment that Soktu gets, it's based on an experience, right? He's walking down this mountain path with a bundle of firewood on his back, and he slips, and his shoe goes up in the air and comes down and hits him in the head, right? So when the shoe hit his head, the shoe didn't say, "Hey, enlightenment, you lucky idiot." No. But he does have an experience. And he experiences this grass shoe hitting him in the head. But you're having experiences like that all the time. Like if you go into my bathroom, there's this little threshold that sticks up. So I went in there last night and I kicked it with my toe because I couldn't see it because it was dark. Okay, did I get enlightenment? Well, I did hurt my toe. And then later I can think, oh wow, that was enlightenment. This is really great. But that isn't what enlightenment is. Enlightenment is not attaching to anything and just doing it. And in this case, that do it has a direction. So he's not doing it to, I'm not doing, the parrot, you think the parrot is doing it to humiliate the cop, but he isn't. Because parrots aren't that smart. But the cop does understand intention, and he applies that attention to the parrot, and when the parrots are pretty clever, probably smarter than a lot of human beings, when the parrot is able to do that, then the cop applies the intention to it. So he projects human being onto the parrot. Parrot doesn't have that, but we think it does. So if you see that clearly, then you know, well, it's not the parrot's intention to humiliate the cop, even though he's a Polish cop. It's not his job. Right? So that's our job, our big job, You have a lot of small jobs. You got to wash the dishes, cut the vegetables, clean the toilets, sit and look at the floor and act like you're meditating. You got a lot of jobs, but how do you use those to help the world? That's your real job behind that. So important is don't attach to your thinking. That's all. Everything else, is just the way it is. That's the truth, moment to moment to moment to moment. So now the cat's being strangled by somebody, and probably nobody here is going to run out and save it, but our job is to help that cat and help everybody else. Any other questions?
I have a question.
Okay, please.
Now that you mentioned the intentions, humans have intentions, and so the interaction that the police officer had with the parrot obviously was his projections on the parrot having human-like intentions. But when we go about the world and when we interact with the other human beings, we clearly have intentions. And
Oh yeah.
yes, it is. But also, you're right that we often do project our intentions on other people and assume that they have intentions that they may not have.
Mm-hmm.
So, just to simplify my life, I just listening to your Dharma talk, I thought, would it be wiser to assume that other people do not have any intentions, although they surely do, but would they simplify your life because it actually prevents you from projecting your thoughts on others?
Right. Well, that's a kind of avoidance. So what you want to do is see other people's intentions clearly and not attach to them. Because Buddhism is not about avoidance, right? Like this prisoner talking to this Theravadan monk, notice that he's practicing some kind of avoidance. But there's nothing special about that. So, seeing what other people like is just one of this array of truth things that you see moment to moment to moment to moment, right? So we attach to that. That's where suffering comes. The Buddha said, well, suffering comes from attachment, right? It comes from your like and dislike mind. That's the easiest way to say it. So when you see what's happening, and what's happening is natural, and part of that natural part is the meanings that other people have in their heads, then when you see it clearly, then you can see to help. So your job is back behind that to help. Back behind is the wrong word. Your job is to help. It's not back behind, hopefully. So what we do as a practice seems like an avoidance. A lot of people say, oh, you're wasting. You sat there for 3 months, you idiot. What were you doing? Oh, I was looking at the floor. And then they're going to think, well, you're stupid, right? Or the food was really good. Well, usually at Kilche the food isn't so good, but at this one it's really good, right? And then they say, well, maybe that's worthwhile, but I'd rather go to a restaurant, Okay. So those are like the facts. And again, everything boils down to the intention of why you're doing it. So we're not sitting here to prove to ourselves that we can sit cross-legged without moving for 3 months or something, right? Because no matter what you think you get, you don't get it. It goes away soon, right? So practicing, and Buddhism also is very interesting because it's not about getting anything. Every human being life, pursuing everything in the world is about getting something. Interesting. That's why the Buddha said, no, nobody's going to believe this. Why aren't they going to believe it? Because you don't get anything. Everybody wants something, they even want something from religion, If only I can get closer to Jesus or Allah or Buddha, right? People even want something from Buddhism. Well, there's nothing to get. You already have it. I mean, that's shocking what the Buddha said. You already have enlightenment, you just don't know it. So when we say wake up, it means to come to a kind of knowing realization of what you really are, not the stupid idea that, and this is where stupidity really comes from, the stupid idea of you have yourself, right? So you can run around all day wringing your hands about your idea of yourself. Hello, it's wrong. And all that happens when you sit is, oh, really? Duh. Enlightenment is more of a duh moment than it is enlightenment. It's like, huh? Because it's so simple. It's before your stupid idea. It's even before your good idea. This is like a win-win game. That's what I love about Buddhism. Everybody wins. You just think you don't. Interesting. You can't get any closer to Buddha because you are Buddha. How do you get something closer to something that you already are? Huh? Thank you. That's what I figured. Interesting. But we attach to good and we attach to bad. But they're both forms of attachment. And then we have this thing called the true self. True self is really interesting. It's the most meaningless concept in any religion. It's the true self. Because what is the true self? Right? We have all kinds of cool names for it. Emptiness, Buddha nature, self nature, your God nature, your Jesus nature, your Muhammad nature. I don't know. There's many, many names for it, right? It's the Tao. It's the, what were they saying, Confucianism? What?
Li.
What? Yeah, it's the intention of a person who wants to behave correctly. So, you have all these ideas, but they're all based on something that you already have. So all you have to do is let go. So when we're practicing, we're just practicing letting go. But then we'll get attached to practicing to letting go. I mean, the mind is incredible. I always think of the mind as kind of like Velcro, it'll stick to anything, no matter what. If I look at him sideways, then I can attach to looking at him sideways, and he can attach to the fact that I looked at him sideways. And then you can make all kinds of stuff out of that. Because he knows I've been to Arizona, and he's been to Arizona. And what did I think of Arizona? Did I like my opinion of Arizona? I love Arizona, by the way. So, no matter what it is, you can carry that anywhere. That's why you want to, just now, you want to wake up. Of course, this is the only time you can wake up. So why not do it now? Why wait? there's a parrot waiting for you somewhere who's going to judge you for sure. And that parrot might be living inside your own brain. Any other questions? Exactly. Yeah.
So I had this situation before. I'm sitting at home, and I have free time, even have money, and I have like the space for helping people, but I don't. I rather play video games or do something else.
Right.
Yeah, and I would like to help. I know I have this idea. I think it's good. Why not? But I don't do it.
Yeah, it's desire mind. So that's what leads to the problem for human beings. Well, Buddha said that's where suffering comes from. So you think, you do all kinds of things. Everybody does. I do them. Everybody does them. You do all these things because you think that you're going to like it, or usually you're trying to get away from something you don't like. Right? But no matter what you get from what you like, you can't keep it. It's impossible, right? Human beings have only been around. How long have they been around? Homo erectus was only like 2 million years ago or something. And where will we be in 2 million years? We'll be lucky to make it to the end of this century. And the sun is what, 5 billion years old? Only 5 billion years? When you think of the time frames that we usually think about in terms of our everyday life, it's about getting to lunch at 11 or something, right? And the sun has been around for 5 billion years, but the universe is 13.8, a little over 13.8, they think these days. But they don't know where it came from, and they definitely don't know where it's going to go. So, hello. If you wondered what don't know really was, it happens to be us. So then you're only left with this moment, right? As Zen Master, one of my favorite concepts of Zen Master Musangsa is we live in a moment world. So you don't live in the parrot talking to you yesterday. You can only live in the parrot talking to you right now. But we're always thinking about the past, and of course we're thinking about the future. And there's nothing wrong with thinking about them. It's perfectly natural. The thing is, don't attach to it. Then it's a thought in this moment. So we always live in this moment. You can't live anywhere else. Maybe somebody will do this someday. I'm always asking people, give me 1 second from the past. Just one. Does anybody have a clever answer to that? Or give me 1 second of the future. Right? So all that stuff you don't want to happen in the future, well, you don't know. That's just your idea. And all the stuff that happened in the past, you don't know. It's just your idea. And as you probably noticed, it's a fairly selective idea. It's not everything that happened in the past. It's mainly what you liked and didn't like. The other stuff kind of cruises by. So then you're left with just right here, right now. That's the only place you can just do it, which is right here. But the problem with that is it just went by. Right? So Zen Master Musangsa translated this line out of the Diamond Sutra. You can't hold on to past mind. You can't get a hold of future mind. Okay, that's pretty clear. If anybody does, they'll come and tell me. And what happened to present mind? It already went by. So he translated that as past mind can't get enlightenment, future mind can't get enlightenment, and past mind can't get enlightenment. So what that means actually is you can't wake up. in any of those 3 times. So what are you left with? Cool, huh? So that's about as good as you can get in the language realm and teaching. Which means that he and I and Dae Kwang Sunim, we don't actually have a job. But we dance around a lot and act like we have a job, which is a Zen teacher. And hopefully it will point to something that helps somebody. That's it. So everybody wants something, or they don't want something, or they're attached to something, they want to keep something. It's just not possible. But that's talking about the past and the future. So Zen is about waking up just now. That's moment mind. And that's the enlightenment mind. Let's just do it. I wish we had patented that phrase, just do it, that the Nike shoe ad uses. You know. That's a translation of a Chinese phrase, wu wei. And Zen Master Sung Sung translated it as just do it. Or what just do it means is not attach to the results of your action. Then you just do it. But I'm sure the Nike shoe ad owns that phrase. Even though we have it in our book. Luckily they haven't sued us yet. Yes?
The 3 bodies of the Buddha.
Yeah, right.
How is that useful as a teacher?
I don't like it much.
Okay.
I can't even remember them. I'm sure back behind, there's a behind meaning that you could look at from a Zen point of view, something. You'll notice that Buddhism has all this teaching. I mean, it's incredible. Probably has more teaching than any other religion. Maybe, I don't know. It's pretty close to some other ones. Here, there, and everywhere. So, the question is not those teachings, but what's the behind meaning of the teachings? You know? I remember one thing that was kind of cool. A lot of you heard this story already, so I'll rush right through it. We were in a restaurant in Kentucky, and this Christian waiter was waiting on Zen Master Sung Sung, myself, some others from the Kentucky Sangha. And the waiter just got more and more angry as the meal went on. And then finally we finished our meal, paid, and went to leave. And the waiter ran over and stood in front of the door and said to Zen Master Sung Sung, who really looked weird in this context, head shaved, gray clothes, not a white guy, right? So this waiter standing in front of the door and looks at him and yells, "Do you believe in God?" Really loud. I was shocked. I was hoping I wasn't having to defend him. So Zen Master Sung Sung just looked at him very, very gently and smiled and said, "Of course I believe in God." And then he kind of, his face got kind of stern and earnest, and he said to the waiter, "By the way, did you ever meet God?" So I don't know if you ever read Christian mystics or not, but they don't really have much to say. They can't describe their experience of meeting God. And if you read it, it's kind of okay. How many ways can you say that? So that's the problem we have, in that the same problem with Zen has to do with experience, right? So you can say the same thing about enlightenment. It's just like every morning you wake up, right? How do you do that, by the way? Interesting. So that's this kind of like explanation, belief kind of thing. You probably notice that in Zen particularly, we don't care what you believe. So everything is kind of pointing towards experience rather than belief. You know, it's kind of like, do you believe in swimming? Well, yes, I believe in swimming. I mean, if you're on a boat, you know, and you're out in the Baltic Sea and you fall over, you'd want to be able to swim, right? So, believing in swimming isn't going to help you. But if you do some stuff and learn how to swim, then, you know, you'll be okay. So more important is being able to do it. And there's nothing wrong with that thinking part of it. It's just that we get attached to it. That's all. Yes?
I have a question. At the beginning of our retreat, you gave a class, you gave a lecture that our best teachers here, and we have 3 teachers here, like old age, sickness, and death.
Right.
So I thought maybe we are just wasting time here in this place. Maybe we should go to hospital. That would be a better place to study.
Yeah, maybe you can be put into situations where you will become aware of what's happening. Because usually people they don't really care about old age, sickness, and death because they're healthy enough, they get enough food, blah, blah, blah. So they don't actually have this, that experience puts this intention into your mind. It can make you run away, though. It can do anything because human beings' intention is quite flexible. Yeah. I've led meditation classes in hospitals, prisons and stuff. Sometimes they're bad experiences, you know, we'll push them up to practicing because they see what the result of all this crap is here. Yeah. So old age, sickness, and death can be experienced all the time. And then it's about wisdom. You know? So wisdom is another thing that you can't explain, but it's something that we have. So you have this experience of these things. So when you come here, you also have an experience. We try to shut it down so there isn't that much exciting external stuff. So you're kind of turned around and pointed at yourself. You know? That's the idea of that. And if you're in a hospital and you're helping people, that's your job. It's pretty simple. What I like about Zen is you don't have to be smart at all. In fact, being stupid is probably a little bit helpful too. But again, it's not how smart you are, it's about how attached you are. Yeah.
And some Buddhist schools believe in that meditation is like purifying the mind. Do you
Right.
think that's a wrong sort of way of talking about meditation?
It's a way to talk about it. These ways of talking about it are not, they have their use, right? I think some are better than others, but you have no mind. Or somebody will say, well, give me your mind, right? Then, oh, what am I doing? So you have to talk about it. I mean, this talk is pretty uninteresting, but if I wasn't talking, it'd be even more uninteresting, right? Or maybe it'd be better, I don't know. So you have to use some kind of word. So like Zen is a particular style, that comes from a kind of melting together of Taoism and Buddhism and meditation and stuff, right? So those are ways of talking. I don't think they're good or bad. They'll hit certain people, right? So I studied Taoism a lot. It never hit me much. I don't know why. It's okay. So something will appeal to you, and probably inside what appeals to you, there will be some real, what we call bone. There'll be something there that'll really hit you, right? Like for me, I go to church, right? So I was raised a Christian. So if you go to a Christian church, you know that the Christians I was associated with, they met 1 hour every Sunday morning. And my church, 11 to 12. And during that 1 hour, that 11 to 12, there was maybe 30 seconds of silent meditation. Do you have silent meditation on a Friday night? What?
Yeah, but every prayer there's a part everyone's kind of mumbling to themselves silently 3 times a day.
But you have the words going through your mind, right?
Yeah.
Well, in Christianity, we have this, it's just an idea, believe me, this idea of silent meditation, yeah. And I'll do a lot of these Christian Buddhist retreats, and most of the Christians are doing some form of silent meditation, which Christian monks will do. But I'm pretty sure that they borrowed that idea from Buddhist monks, because Christian monasticism comes from Buddhism and Hinduism, probably both. Yeah, not important. Important thing is look inside and see yourself. Yes?
Something you just mentioned, I asked myself for some time now. We have Buddhism with meditation, and as you mentioned, in Christianity, there is no such practice of just sitting in that way, as far as I'm aware. And
well, in Catholicism there is. Huh?
yeah, and so it feels, of course, that's why I'm here, that Buddhism is a good way to practice. But how could people, is it like just by luck that Buddha came from Asia and there is like the good way, and Christian people don't have this kind of practice, so they lack something? So
yeah, I don't know. No. One way I usually think about it is it's like a continuum. So on one side of it is just belief. So you can probably think of religions that are just based on belief. You just believe, you believe, brother, and that's it, And then on the other end of the continuum are spiritual disciplines, or whatever you want to call them, that focus on experience. Like in Zen, I mean, I don't really care if you believe in Zen, but are you going to do something, right? And use this technique to produce this, or to allow this result to be revealed, or however you want to talk about it, right? So that's like two ends of the spectrum. So some religions are really heavy on, well, generally speaking, Middle Eastern religions are heavier on belief, while what we call Asian religions are heavier on experience. That's just it's not that they don't have those two things, it's just culturally that's the way it played out historically or something. Does that make sense? Anyway, what shocked me in the Christian church on Sunday thing is that, what's this 30 seconds of silent prayer, or whatever they call it. They call it silent prayer. What's this 30 seconds of silent prayer about? And then as I got older and a teenager, I started thinking, well, why? It's not lasting very long. Anyway. Sure, of course.
So we open our Dae with the 4 great vows, and we open our Dae with the 4 great vows,
right.
and we close our Dae with the 4 great vows, and it starts with the sentient beings are numberless, we vow to save them all.
Right.
And I remember you briefly sharing your view on helping others at our first meeting, how helping others, I'm one of them, we're one of them, we're one of the people, so helping others is helping ourselves too.
Right.
Sometimes I have this thought that in trying to help others, we sometimes get in the way of their own, what is it called? The sovereignty, how they want to experience their lives.
Yeah.
And there's something called the savior complex too.
Yeah, right.
I wanted to
Ran in it all the time.
I know that's not about Buddhist way of helping is not at all about savior complex. So I wanted to ask you, what is the Buddhist point of view on helping others, and why is helping others important in your
right.
perspective?
Well, it's important because from a Buddhist point of view, that's the meaning of a human being. And you are one of them, so it covers everything. Then what you do, you'll notice that Buddhism talks very generally and kind of abstractly about it, right? But this savior complex is not one of the techniques, right? But you might be able to use the savior complex for something. I don't know. The human mind is really complicated. There's all this stuff going on all the time, even if you're a simple-minded person. So that's why we always talk about direction, why you're doing it, to be aware of that. Then how it plays out moment to moment, I have no idea. That's why we teach don't know. And is it going to work? You don't know. What should you do? Something really complicated, something not complicated? Something funny, like a parrot, or something really deep, like a philosopher or something. You don't know. Depends on the circumstances, and those circumstances are always changing, and you don't know what are they going to end up to be. You have no idea. That's why Zen Master Musangsa always said, "We are don't know." There's no manual that I'm going to pass out to all of, or we're going to pass out to all of you here that tells you what to do, right? Except in the way we talk, which is fairly abstract and generalized, applies to everybody. Okay? Well, that's enough. Blah, 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 blah. So I want to, first of all, just coming here, that's an expression of an intention, right? And then you have to do something. So that doing it moment to moment to moment to moment to moment, that's doing something. So that's why I always thank people for coming, because it isn't perfect, but this do it helps you and everybody. Okay? If you do it. If you're attached to something, if you have a savior complex or something, maybe not. But maybe, you don't know. You don't know. And moment to moment to moment to moment, things change. They are interconnected, at least we say that theoretically, but actually it's always just now. So the most important thing is to wake up right now. That's true meditation, being aware right now. In fact, that's all there is to meditation, no matter how you talk about it or what you think about it. It's about waking up just now and then using that to help the world. So, thank you for coming.